the structure is. We've been going through Ignite now for a few weeks, right? We know what successful agents do every day in running their business and growing their business. In today's session, Elements 9 is contract to close. It's mostly focused on running your business, right? You have a contract, you got someone in escrow, congratulations. Now what happens, right? And we'll talk about it both from the listing and the buyer side. We'll talk about a few strategies here and there. And escrow, and we'll take it from there. All right. If concerns, feel free to put them in the chat box, or feel free to ask away. We don't have an overwhelming number of you in class today, so it shouldn't be too difficult to express yourselves and let yourselves be heard. So let's get into what happens when you get your client in contract, right? You've beaten up 5 or 6 other people and you've gotten your offer accepted. Now what happens next? Well, you take everything and send it to your transaction coordinator and you wait for a check to arrive. Class is over. We'll see you later.
Yay!
Hey, guys, enjoy the rest of your day. Now, so let's talk about what happens and what the lovely transaction coordinators that we have that work for our office actually are doing on your behalf, if that's the path you decide to choose. Now, we do have a few to choose from as far as transaction coordinators go. We have Mabo, Antran, and Katie Piro. And if I forgot anyone else, I apologize. But we do have 3 at least people that you can refer to as transaction coordinators to help take your transactions to the finish line. Now, what's the first thing that happens? What's the first thing that a transaction coordinator is going to do when you submit the paperwork that you have? And in most cases, the paperwork is your approved, ratified purchase contract, right? Now, today in our market, it's very competitive. So it's not uncommon for us to have all the disclosures already filled out as well. So if you are competing with multiple offers and you're looking to differentiate one way to do that is to provide the listing complete disclosure package. If they've taken the time to put one out ahead of time, we should take the time to review those disclosure packages and also have our clients sign off, which makes it much easier to facilitate the final steps of the transaction. And I had an instance this year where we were tied money-wise, but the difference was in my transaction, my clients filled out all the disclosure paperwork. The other guys did not fill out the disclosure paperwork. So the listing agent was thinking, well, we accept this contract, we have to go chasing after paperwork, or we can work with Mark's contract. Paperwork's already done. All we have to do is wait for a check. Guess which one they chose? The one that was already done. So if you're definitely going to be competitive and you know that you're going to be competitive with your offer price, you get to invest that extra refinance, sometimes an hour it might take to properly mark up disclosure package and have your clients fully execute and sign off on everything. We do most of the things through DocuSign, which makes life really, really easy. The only problem with that, the small problem I have with DocuSign, is that when clients are reviewing the information or going to sign all that paperwork, it's really easy just to pop that button, sign, and you can execute 100 signatures in 30 seconds. But the problem is are the clients actually reading the documents and understanding what they're signing? So it's important for us to express that and the clients know what they're getting themselves into, especially today, because contingencies are the first things that get negotiated in offer negotiation. And if your client is going in without contingencies, they should have a very thorough understanding and should have read property inspections, termite, roof inspections, and other professional reports, along with all the seller disclosures, statements, the seller property questionnaire, etc., and have a great understanding of the condition of the home. That way they can be confident in their contingency removals. Otherwise, if they haven't read that information and they get to the closing table, then your clients move in and the roof is leaking. They call you up to go, dude, the roof is leaking. It's like, well, yeah, it was in the disclosures. Did you read them? No. So it's important for us to make sure that our clients actually read the disclosures. So a good idea to go over it with them. That way know that they understand the conditions with the property that they're buying. Okay, but the first transaction coordinator is going to do when they receive your purchase contract to process it is they're going to create a calendar. Okay, a calendar of events that have to take for this contract to go from finish. Okay, the first thing they do, obviously, the close of escrow date. That's when everything's supposed to come to a head and finish up, usually 30 to 45 days, sometimes 14 days if you were a cash buyer. And the contingency lines. Do you have contingencies? Contingencies are in contract. You know, sometimes we're foregoing the property condition contingency, but we still have a financing contingency or an appraisal contingency. So those are placed on a calendar for you by the transaction coordinator if you're not using one. That's something that you want to create to keep your clients informed about important dates that have to happen between contract and So transaction calendar is going to have what? It's going to have your contingencies for property condition. It's going to have your contingencies for appraisal. If you have HOA documents, they're going to be in there as well. If you have contingencies for financing and appraisal, I think that's about it. A lot of times it's popular to do those contingencies with you. Just have an understanding that the only way to properly have a non-contingent offer is to actually sign off on all those disclosures. If you read the purchase contract where it outlines your contingency timelines, there's a clause there that states that any new information gives the client an additional 5 days to review before removing that contingency. So if you submit an offer with a 0 and a contingency removal, and then 3 days later the listing agent completes an avid and gives you the avid, guess what happens? You actually have another 5 days of contingencies to review that avid, and your clients can technically cancel the contract and have a good claim to the based on any information in that avid, especially if there's new information that wasn't previously disclosed in the prior documents that your client signed off on. Okay. Now, again, market's going to dictate the way these. In many cases today, if you want your clients to win the multiple offer game, you want to have them submit a complete disclosure package. If you're on the listing side, it's a great argument to get your clients to approve listing inspection. You know, in our area, we have such a short time on market, it's very relevant to have pre-listing inspections. Sometimes, you know, if you're in another part of the country where you don't expect to sell a house in 3 to 5 days, maybe your average days on market is 3 to 6 months. Well, in 3 to 6 months, so much can happen. It's almost irrelevant to have pre-listing. Because what happens, you have 2 seasons, a rainy season, and what was perfect maybe 6 months ago in that inspection is no longer. Maybe now you realize there's a leaky roof, etc. But in our area, you know, with our hot market, we don't anticipate listings being on for more than 30 days, usually 7 to 10 days with the market we're experiencing now. So you have the inspections, and it's a great idea to make sure all your disclosures are completed as well. So you want to make sure the seller signed off on the transfer disclosure statements, the seller property questionnaire, as well as all the ancillary disclosures that you need to have in your packet. And the list of documents is available for you guys in Command. And I'll get into Command and show you guys where to look for that stuff and how to derive those documents, or at least a list of what you should have for pre-listing packets and an understanding of what should be coming, right, if you're working with. Now, when we have our clients put their best foot forward as a listing agents, I've seen it in the you know, if you're going to submit an offer, please also execute the disclosures. That way you have everything right, don't have anything to worry about. I sold a buddy's home in Valley and relocated him out to Livermore. And I could tell that he had another friend or a buddy that's in the real estate business, because he calls me up 3 days after his move, after we got into contract on selling his house. And he goes, man, where's my escrow calendar? Aren't you supposed to give me an escrow calendar? When are we going to renegotiate repairs? And when are we going to renegotiate these things? He was all flustered and worried. And my response to that was, buddy, here we do a professional job. Your escrow calendar is this. We close in 25 days. Expect your check. There is no renegotiating. There's nothing to worry about. The buyer's deposit is already hard as they have removed their contingencies with their offer. Tell your friend. That's how we do it in Silicon Valley. If he needs a lesson, give me a call. So basically, we do get things wrapped up pretty easily these days in our markets with regards to paperwork. Now, things could change. Obviously, markets cycle out, and when markets cycle out and we start negotiating with sellers one-on-one, and we may not need to submit or spend that extra hour doing the disclosures, or we may have contingencies down the road, it's important for you guys to understand that process, okay? So there is a calendar. You know, let's say we have 7 days for property condition contingencies and for financing contingencies and appraisals. We want to let our clients know those important dates because we do need them to execute documents, act on those contingencies, whether request or request for credit to overcome any deficiencies that we discover in our property inspection. And also, you know, give lines to the lenders to let them know, everybody, you have 14 days to get this final loan approval if they're, you know, if the buyers maybe haven't pre-approved, or you have 14 days to make sure you get this appraisal done. Now, these days, you know, a lot of checks are coming in non-contingent, and the appraisals are taking forever because they're a little overloaded and backlogged. But yeah, it's important for us to understand that those processes, and in the event to have maybe an extension of time to act on a contingency, or we have an extension of time because we can't close escrow on time because the appraiser hasn't even been to the house yet. You know, a lot of these things that you can head off at the pass, if you will, by simply having a conversation with the lender before you get into contract and ask them, hey, but how are appraisals working? Will you be able to close this in 30 days or in 21 days or in 45 days? And you should be able to, if you have a good relationship and a good lender, they're going to let you know, honestly let you know, because on that contract, 21 days without contingencies, that seller is expecting their money in 3 weeks. So it's important that those guys can deliver on their promises. So once you get that escrow calendar put together, everyone's informed of what happens when. If you don't have the disclosures, there's missing documents or missing paperwork, missing signatures from the seller side, maybe missing listing agent signatures, buyer's agent signatures. You have to track all that information down, make sure that you have everything properly executed and signed party. One of the great things that our transaction coordinator do on your behalf, saving you a lot of effort and grief, right? Our job is lead generation, working with buyers and sellers. We're probably the time, money sensitive task that we can offload, right? Remember Gary Keller said the 3 L's of real estate. You guys know what the 3 L's of real estate are, Keller? Anyone care to guess what they are?
Leverage.
Listing, leads, listing, leverage.
That's it. Listings, leads, and leverage. So leverage is the first a layer of leverage you can add to your business is offload the paper shuffling and let the transaction handle that. It'll save you hours of time. They do this hundreds of times a month. So uploading documents into Command for a transaction coordinator, it's going to take them minutes. It's going to take you an hour if you're not adept at doing it. So the first point of leverage in your business would be to offload that process, and it'll save you several hours of time. Now, what you do, you can sleep and then nothing happens in your business, right? Or if you leverage that time and spend those 2 or 3 hours generating leads, theoretically, you can obtain 2 or 3 new clients. What are 2 or 3 new clients worth? A lot more than a couple $100 you're going to pay that coordinator to shuffle that paperwork for you. So make sure that all the documents are signed. If you're not using the coordinator, then you're going to have to go around and track down all those signatures that may be missing so far. Let's see what the documents look like. We need to do here. Well, first, let's get to a question here. When in contract, the seller agreed paying for a home warranty. I specified home warranty in the RPA, but would like to change to another vendor. I submit the amendment, correct, not the addendum. Yeah, for a home warranty, if you have different service, the buyers, you're on the buyer side, You're the one that's actually taking that home warranty. You should select whoever you like. One different than what you put on the piece of paper, this should be fine. It'd be just to change it. Just make sure escrow knows which home warranty you want to implement in which home warranty you're going to work with, so that they pay the appropriate company if they're getting paid in escrow. And Rob asked, how do we list demand? Well, it's a good question that you can ask Rob, because I'm going to show you right now how to do that. All right, let's get into a web browser. We'll hit the share button. All right, here's command. It's probably part of the command you guys don't see. It's my backdoor to command where I check all your files. But the command section, this should be pretty familiar to you all. The documents are, or the list of documents are filed under opportunities. Right, so you click into opportunities, and within your opportunities, you'll have access to the documents that you need to get. If you don't have opportunities, you can create. I created an opportunity earlier for proper save, maybe, which is cool. We can create it. You hit create opportunity. You create what type of opportunity it is, whether it's a listing or a buyer. Landlord or tenant's there as well, but we don't do much of those, so we don't worry about too much of those. You're going to fill in who your clients were. We're helping Jeff Taylor buy a house in Morgan Hill. If you have any tags you want to put on the transaction, you can. I don't have any tags in mine. See, my estimated close date on this one's going to be 6 weeks. So let's put April, or May 6th. Paying 2.5%. The offer is $1,270,000. And they're active. And you hit create. When you hit create, the opportunity is created, and you have some information that you can access about the opportunity and your clients. You have property information, you can fill it in here as well. If you filled out a buyer profile, you can put that in here as well. The tab is where all the documents are going to be. Status. What am I missing? Just please connect the credit card and send this to you. Let's try this. It doesn't work. All right. Checklist type. There's several different checklists that'll apply to the property. This is a standard residential home. So we're going to click the standard 1 through 4 residential units. And it gives you 3 tabs to work with. Consultation, under contract, and closed. Under consultation, there really is no documentation that's required by the office. But if you do have some type of buyer profile you'd like to save, this is where you would do it. The under contract tab, however, is the tab that'll show you all the documents that you're going to need to include to have a successful transaction and have it cleared and approved. We have a residential purchase agreement. Buyer inspection advisory is attached to the purchase agreement. If there's any counter offers, you upload those here. The earnest money deposit receipt, MLS printout. It's important to pull the MLS printout, guys. And I recommend that you pull the MLS printout when you make your offer. Sometimes there's commission bonuses or whatnot and information, maybe include appliances or whatnot that are outlined in the in the MLS listing. And there's people here and there. Sometimes they may change things like remove bonuses, or if they were adding a washer dryer, now they realize, oh no, my seller is not going to leave that washer and dryer now that we're in contract. So anyway, it's a good idea to print up those MLS listings prior to getting into contract, so that so that you have a record of what you're buying and what the terms were outlined on the MLS. Any addendums that you have to the contract, the contingent removals, if they're with the contract, they should be there. Or when you get those contingency removals at the appropriate times, you want to upload those. The possible representation of more than one buyer or seller. This document's also included in the RPA packet from the car forms, as well as the agency disclosures. There's agency disclosures between the listing agent and the seller. That should be provided to you in the buyer disclosure package. And then you have your agency disclosure between you and your clients that you're going to fill out when they make their offer. And that's also part of the offering packet, right? When we pull up the car RPA purchase agreement in WinForms, there's several documents that precede the RPA. The agency is there, the possible rep of more than one buyer or seller is there. There's a fair housing disclosure there as well. So there's a good 3 or 4 accompanying documents. And when you upload this into Command, you do have to separate those out and upload them into Command. Again, if you're using the TC, you don't have to worry about it. TC takes care of it for you. If you're not using the TC, I suggest you invest in Adobe Acrobat tools so that you can easily manipulate PDFs and break them up into multiple files. If you don't have those tools, or you don't want to invest in Acrobat, then it could be a little time consuming. You can print to and separate those forms out that way. Oh, let's see. Disclosures we just got through. Their agent visual for both the listing agent and the buyer's agent. It's your AVID. We want to complete our AVID that demonstrates our fiduciary responsibility to, and the agent disclosure describes what that is, right? It says client or the agent must take the duty of utmost care, and utmost care means you're doing the most you possibly can, not what's really good enough. And I think we all kind of got on that pretty good over the last year. I know when we started this about 2 years ago, a lot of us were putting in the transfer disclosure statements, hey, buyer to get professional inspections and thoroughly review that information. And we wouldn't really go through property or really comment anything about the. And in reality, when agents get sued for fiduciary duty, that's one of the things the judge looks at, and they say, well, did the guy do the diligence in inspecting the property? And if you just put it off on professional inspectors, you're going to say, no, the agent did not do their diligence, and you get a big fat L, and your commission goes, part of it goes, whatever it is to fix. So we do those inspection disclosures to make sure that we're doing our fiduciary responsibilities. Now, you don't have to go and test all the appliances. No, you don't have to open up the wall behind there. You just walk through the property and write down what you notice, and write down what you see. All right, the water conserving carbon monoxide notice. That's for water conserving fixtures. You want to make sure the clients understand and sign off on that. The receipt talks about earthquakes. Report checklist if the property is built before 1960, and a lead-based if it's built before 1970. The market conditions advisory is a great CYA. Basically goes over market conditions, non-contingent offers. Same with the statewide buyer and seller advisory. It's the car forms, I believe it's 12 to 14 pages. Another supplemental that's 17 pages, both of them in there. Basically, it goes over the whole entire process of buying a house, inspections and local ordinances and different things that you should explain to your clients when you're going through the process, but sometimes we do, sometimes we anyway, is in those buyer and seller advisories. Give them to your clients to read over and make sure they sign off on those. big time save your butt in case you forgot to tell someone disclosure or about anything pertaining to different conditions that transpire throughout our lovely area here. The next two are very important documents, the seller property questionnaire and the transfer disclosure statement. Those are the checklists that the seller provides outlining the property conditions and experience owning the property. You have your water heater and smoke detector statement of compliance. What does that mean? Well, the water heaters have to be brace strapped and anchored, and smoke detectors have to be present in every home that we transact. These are not negotiable terms. Now, who actually is negotiable? Put that on the buyer and have to put it on the seller. However, the property cannot change hands unless those water heaters are properly strapped and anchored, or the property has the appropriate smoke detectors, and everyone signs off on that statement of compliance saying that, yes, we did resolve those. There's a wire fraud. That's another one that's in the also included with the offer paperwork. Let's be wire fraud. It is real and it is a problem. So make sure that your clients understand when they're wiring their money escrow that they get the wiring instructions direct from your escrow officer by a phone call directly to that escrow officer. They'll either dictate those wire instructions over the phone, or they will wire instructions through private secured email portals. You will never get escrow wiring instructions directly in your email. No one will ever call you to give you those instructions either. So, and do the thieves do that? Yes, that's what they do. They send phishing emails. They do different things to try to get you to interact with them so they can give you their wiring instructions so that your client's hard-earned money goes to escrow. The home warranty receipt. If you ordered a home warranty with the property, highly recommend we work with home warranties. Don't see them on our contracts. Guys, the home warranty companies, I have to double check this, but in the past, if you complete your disclosure packet appropriately and you order a home warranty from one of the 3 major home warranty companies, those home warranty companies will pay your E&O deductible in case you get sued. So it's a good idea to have a home warranty. If my clients balk on it, I just buy it for them and throw it on there. I'd rather pay the $500 and not worry about getting sued. Remember that these homes that we're selling are, in most cases, they're secondhand homes. They're used and they're exposed to elements, and things can happen at any time. So when things break, especially big ticket items, if they break right after you move in or right after you take possession of the house, it could be a burden on your client. With the home warranty, they only have to pay $70 and their problem's resolved. The water heater blows up, they get a new water heater. If the furnace breaks, they get a new furnace. So it's pretty cool, $70. And otherwise, they start worrying and they start reading those disclosures and say, hey man, did these guys tell me the furnace was bad? Should my agent have known? And then they talk to a lawyer and the lawyer goes, oh yeah, your agent should have known and their agent should have known. And before you know it, you're wrapped up in arbitration. There's a great way to avoid that. And the hedge against that is making sure you have a home warranty included with every property that you sell. Miscellaneous disclosures, miscellaneous documents. Every brokerage is going to have a few forms, some more than others. We try to keep those to a minimum. I try to keep your lives easier as much as possible. Also, I was joking about this. I've only been a broker for a couple of years. Haven't been sued enough to have a big packet of forms that we need in supplement to the forms provided by Car Forms. They might be coming. I do review them from the other sides. If things make sense, we may add those in. For example, there is a e-signature disclosure that some of the other brokers are making their clients sign. We don't have that. Probably will soon. So things of that nature would be uploaded there. The preliminary title report you're going to put in. If there's a property profile, just to make sure that you understand what you're buying with the property, the exact lot size, so forth. If the property is under guidelines of CCNRs, you want to upload those as well. Your natural hazard disclosure report is there. That tells people whether they're buying a home in a fault zone or a flood zone or a severe fire zone. You have your inspections and your waivers. Again, if you're on the buy side, there's a good chance the seller provided property and termite inspections for you to review ahead of time. If you have contingencies or conscious buyers that want to have their own inspections and reports, don't deny them. Make sure they can get those, and you upload those as well. So if you have 2 of them, send in 2 of them. HOA documents, that goes with the CCNRs. If they're in an HOA, make sure you upload, and we need all of them, not just a signature page, the full booklets. Hopefully they provide them in an easy to upload format. Most of them do. Inspection rejections, guys, this is an important document as well. Even though you may have a property or termite inspection, I almost guarantee you, in most cases, the property and termite inspection is going to have something further inspection recommended. A lot of times, like the garage is full of stuff, and you walk into the garage, the inspector says, well, I can't really inspect this place. We'll say further inspection recommended because there's too much stuff in the garage. Clear the garage, call me back, pay me another $100 and I'll inspect the garage. So that being said, important to have that inspection, because in many cases, the buyers are not going to want to pay for another inspection. So we're going to have them sign this inspection rejection, and this covers our butts against them not having those additional inspections. And also, in the event further inspections have been called property or termite inspector that we already have, reject those further inspections as well. All right, let's chat. Is there actually check with your agent services coordinator? They that list, but the major ones are Fidelity. That's what I use most of the time. Older Public Home Warranty, First American Home Warranty. escrow, I believe, is another one. There's a few. You have options on the home warranty side. Yang asks, do we need to upload these documents by the time we make their offer, after the offer is accepted? And you want to upload these documents after the offer is accepted. Once the offer is accepted, then you want to go ahead and put everything in. Ideally, I would love it if you guys would upload those documents 3 days of getting your contract clients into escrow. That way, if there's any problems, issues, or concerns, we can address those prior to close of escrow. Some of us are uploading those documents after close of escrow to get your checks in a timely manner. But if there's a problem that escrow goes, then we could have issues that we could have circumvented had we had that documentation ahead of time. So let's do our best to get those documents uploaded as soon as possible. Sherry asks, do we offer legal advice options, a company to call on for questions for free to our clients after closing? Well, legal advice options would be to contact a real estate attorney. You may want to interview a few of those to see if there's someone you can refer out in such cases. There's if you need help with reviewing CCNRs and HOA documents, there's a company you can reach out to, and they'll summarize those for you for a small fee. But that's about it as far as I know off the top of my head. If you guys know of anyone offering out free legal advice, feel free to share, but free legal advice is not something that's always a good idea. Yeah. Okay. Termites and waivers, HOA documents. There's an arbitration agreement as well. It's a car arbitration agreement. I know there's an arbitration agreement in the contract that doesn't quite cover what we're looking for. This arbitration agreement is going to be an agreement between us and our clients. In the event our clients have a problem with us, then we settle it through arbitration first. That's what that agreement says. The Consumer Privacy Act and the Fair Housing. Also, these two documents are included in your offer packet. Oh, and the square footage disclosure too. Any questions on these documents, guys, or where you got kind of know where to go to get this list? working on the listing side, again, I recommend working with a transaction coordinator. They'll put the nice package together for you. And you want to make sure that you have all of these documents available to the buyers so that they can download, review, and sign off, hopefully sign off before they make their offer or with their offer. Again, if they make it with their offer, you don't have to hound them for it later. And when you're working with multiple offers, it's real easy to get people to do what you ask them to do when they're trying to win a multiple offer situation. Usually they'll acquiesce and do everything right away. Sometimes if you're in escrow with certain companies or people, they may take their time getting the documents back to you. And sometimes it's kind of a pain in the ass to go chasing after those documents, like final verification of property conditions and things of that nature. Actually, that's probably the only one you should have outstanding, is that final verification of property condition. Here. The main purpose of this guy is to validate that the property is in the basic same condition it was as when you made your offer. And then if you have any negotiated repairs, that those repairs have been completed. And then once you get to the end, you get to the closing, there's a few more documents that come through. The FERPTA. Technically, what the FERPTA does, it lets you know the seller's tax ID and information and their situation with regards to whether or not you need to withhold taxes. By law, it is the buyer's responsibility to withhold gains taxes and report those to the IRS. Luckily for all of us, we have escrow that handles it for us. Nevertheless, escrow needs that documentation to know the tax ID numbers. So that's what the FERPTA is for. The commission demand, that's what gets you paid. To your office splits and splits with your transactions, or if you're paying for home warranties, things of that nature on the commission demand. The closing statement from escrow, this is the balance sheet that the buyers sign off on that has credits and debits. And then the sold MLS printout. Again, first, you want to compare that sold MLS to the printout, make sure they didn't pull a fast one on you and make any changes. 99 out of 100, 999 out of 1,000 times it's accurate and good. I did have one experience though, back in the REO days. There was an REO agent that put a $2,000 bonus that he took it off, and I didn't print out the form, so it's not the end of the world. But I would have liked my. I didn't have the proof, so I could do to collect it. It was just my word versus his word thing. He had all the cheap listings, so it's not like we're not gonna try to do business again either way. I just know better. We print up the MLS posts that we have that.
Can you repeat that again? I didn't understand. What can be changed on MLS? Because I printed
Anything
one.
can be changed on MLS. Anything and everything. When you place your ad on when the listing can be placed on MLS, they can be modified.
So printed at the end.
So the commission rate can be changed.
Oh, I see.
Is that the hell now? But do unscrupulous people do unscrupulous things sometimes? So we have to protect ourselves.
Got it.
My situation, they had it in the agent remarks. They said, bonus to selling agent if you put in an escrow by a certain day, which we did. After we got into contract and have the printout from before. So I love $2,000 bonus. Not the end of the world. 2.5%. That's what I was really after. And that came through. Okay. Any questions or concerns regarding where to find documentation? Now you guys know where to get the list of required documents. Once you upload everything, you click C, and I get a notification for compliance. and I go through on Tuesdays and Fridays and review what you guys have uploaded. If there's things that you're missing, usually I'll highlight them, and if something is not filled out appropriately or properly, or if there's a missing signature, I will reject that document, and you'll get a notification that there's an issue with the file. Yeah, see, Alice even put that in the comments, right? Always take a pic of the commission buyer side before you put her in. It also happened out. See, I'm not the only one. Nancy mentioned, it's just curious why resale site has no specific for verbiage tax credits. Verbiage is everything, and it comes down to everything is freelance. Well, in a way, it is freelance. Credits are not necessarily something that I wouldn't say, but from a few aspects, they are questionable in a way. So they try to avoid those. But what do we normally do credits for? Now, if there's a repair that needs to happen that you don't want the seller to do, you'd rather have the money. If you ever have specific questions in your situations, guys, you can always reach out to me, and I can help you with some verbiage that'll cover you. But typically, the verbiage for credits would be, seller to credit X. And in most cases, well, if you're dealing with a cash buyer, cash buyers, you don't have to worry about lender fraud because they're cash buyers. But if you're worried, so they can have credits for unlimited amount back and forth, doesn't matter. If you're working with a lender, however, especially a major lender, they're going to have credits. They're not an absolute. They do they'll allow credits, but there are limits to what those be. And in most cases, those limits are limited to offset non-recurring closing costs. Okay, so whenever you're asking for a credit, basically it says seller to credit X buyers to offset the non-recurring closing. If those closing are lower than what your negotiated credit is, then you have to figure out a way to increase those non-recurring closing costs. We can have a class about that later. But if at the end of the day, you're at the table and you have a $5,000 repair request credit, and there's only $4,000 in non-recurring closing costs to offset, guess what happens? The $4,000 offset, $4,000. What happens to the extra $1,000? Goes back to the seller. Buyer's not entitled to that. By taking that money, technically they'd be committing lender fraud. The last thing we want to do is complete fraud. You can always call the MLS and ask them to check the file for older versions of the file. That's an interesting point. I never thought of that. They change it. I didn't know that they kept versions. Thank you for sharing, Rob. You did train the trainer, Rob. Everyone's always learning. This is a learning-based business. We're always learning. Whether you're training or not training, when I'm training things, that's when I'm learning the most. That's one of the reasons I always volunteer to teach classes. And that's what I challenge some of you guys to do too. If there's an aspect of this business that you want to master, teaching it to others. By making that commitment, it'll get you going, and you'll do the research, and you'll be able to understand to a level where you're teaching others, and you'll master it faster. All right. So consultation under contract. You got your offer accepted. You've gone through and made sure all the documents were in command. That way you can get your commission demand posted out and get paid for your hard effort and hard work. Working with the title company to make sure that everything's smooth. If you have a loan, your lender, you know what paperwork the lender is going to need to facilitate their job? There's two things the lender is going to need. They need the purchase contract, so you know how much money they're going to need to borrow on your behalf, right? And they're going to need the preliminary title report. Once you know, the first two things you shoot off to your lenders is the contract and the prelim. You know, Coach Mark, I'll put on my coaching hat here. One of the biggest mistakes many agents make is waiting to the very, very end to ask for referrals. Guys, I think you're selling yourself short when you do that. What's the reality of life, right? Experiencing something or going through something, the likelihood, law of attraction will say, the likelihood of attracting others that are going through a similar process is super, super high, right? When you just won buyer presentation for your buyer client, are they pretty excited and happy? I would say they're very excited and happy. Maybe they're sharing their experience with their coworkers, letting them know how super jazzed and excited they are. There's a good chance that one of their coworkers might say, hey, you know, I'm thinking about buying a house. The difference between you getting that referral and you not getting that referral is A, set up, and B, you know, asking for that business, continue out the process as you're working with your clients through escrow. Every time you champion something for your clients is a great opportunity for you to ask for referrals, because A, when you champion something, they love you. The likelihood of them introducing you to someone new is very, very high. After close of escrow, people move in and they forget about their process. They live in their house. You have maybe a 1 or 2 week window where they're still kind of excited about being new homeowners, but then they go on with their lives. Will they refer you business down the road? Sure, if the opportunity, but it's lower because just them coming into contact or talking about their experience is much lower. So their opportunity to refer you is going to be much lower. So please don't shortchange yourselves. Get that client into escrow, contract gets approved, remind them of, you know, they're going to be very thankful. You can remind them, hey, the best way to thank me is, you know, find someone to fill up my Saturday. My Saturday is no longer yours, right? We successfully acquired a property for you, but now I need something to do on Saturday. I need someone to show houses to on Sunday. Would you be so kind to replace yourself? This is something that I like to set up in my first initial consultation when I work. You know, I work a little differently than most agents. Most agents spend 90% or 80 to 90% chasing for new clients. They're cold calling, they're prospecting, doing all those nasty things I don't like to do. I like to work a little differently. I like to spend 80% servicing you.
Oh, frozen.
Making sure I'm available, making sure that I'm available to review all the documents, that you have an outstanding buying experience. The only problem with that is once we come to a conclusion of our relationship, I may not have anyone new to work with. And that's where you come in. If you are a relationship, you appreciate, please share that with the people that you know and care about. Please introduce me. I'll be happy to provide exemplary service for them as well. And it's the law of attraction, guys. I know that you're going to be your experience at work. If you come across one of your coworkers that says, hey, I'm also interested in buying a house, please let me know how to get a hold. And you get their commitment at that time. And usually people are on board. But then you don't forget to ask for it when those opportunities arise. So when you actually do get them into escrow and you are sharing that good news, remind them, by the way, you haven't replaced, please let me know if there's anyone else that I should be talking to. That top of mind awareness, the likelihood of getting a referral is pretty good, especially if you did a good job. Some other times that you can do that, you know, when you remove contingencies. You know, to remove contingencies in the traditional market, you're negotiating repairs, you're to win for your clients, hey, to buy you a new furnace. seller to repair that termite damage. Well, thank you, Mark. You're the best. I know. You're very welcome. If you appreciate what I do, you know, we're almost our transaction. Would love it if you could introduce me to someone else that I could share my services with. All right. So that's that with regards to, does anyone have any questions, concerns, experiences you'd like to share? Transitions? I don't speak at once. Are we still awake? Or did I put everybody to sleep? I know this is the funnest aspect of our job here, right? Is to bring people to the finish line. We spend most of our time, effort, and energy getting people to this point, right? And that's appropriate because that's where most of our time is supposed to be spent.
Hey, good morning, Mark. It's Philip or Felipe.
Good morning, Felipe. How come?
Yeah, I had one back in the REO days too with a $5,000 bonus, and it had fallen through. They put a $5,000 bonus. We made an offer. They accepted it. And when it was time to close escrow, they weren't releasing the funds for the 5,000. So I had to show the proof of MLS document, and they still wouldn't release the funds. So we went all the way to arbitration, and just the day before we were supposed to go to arbitration, they released the funds.
Yeah, sometimes people have to be pushed, I guess. Arbitration is an interesting thing. Yeah, in the arbitration agreements, it said the loser pays legal fees. So when you have a case that's strong and you know you're not going to lose, it's like, okay, you can pay me now, or you can pay me now and my legal fees. That's up to you.
Yeah, so they just try to prolong it to see if we would just forget about it.
Yeah. Well, good for you for sticking up for yourself. Good for you for sticking up for what's right and getting paid. You work really hard, guys. Don't let people shortchange your compensation. If they make you a promise of a bonus, you know, we want to be diligent, right? So make sure you have the MLS printout from when the property was active, so you have that documentation to be able to hold them to their promises. Yeah.
Hey, Mark. Can you tell me more about arbitration and mediation? Like, does the client have to file and pay $500 or something like that, even to just get it started? Like, what's the fee? Because sometimes my client asks this. I don't know what the answer to that.
No, I've never been pulled into arbitration, so I don't know. I've never had,
Okay.
20 years. I haven't had. I know I don't sell 100 houses a year either, you know. But for the few that I've sold, no one's ever put or pulled me into any kind of arbitration dispute. I've threatened the arbitration before I've performed to their contractual obligations. You know, I've had situations where I represented the buyer, fixtures and items that they were not supposed to remove from the property. You know, my buyers moved in and said, "Hey, the lights are missing, and there's a workbench missing," and we had to pull the listing agent and the seller back into a meeting and explain to them, you know, what real property is. Okay? And they acquiesced, and a few days later, nobody wants to pay fees. Nobody wants to get sued, especially cut and dry. Most is really printed out on written paper. And if you have a written document with someone's signature, it's like, dude, you already promised this.
Okay, thank you.
Times that's happened is I had a situation where a seller wanted to delay close of escrow by like 2 or 3, some silly technicality. They needed to get the home seller was an older gentleman, and he was, I believe, and he was bragging to the ladies at the escrow company about his beautiful wife back in Vietnam. Well, here's the document. He's a single man. An escrow that you have a wife somewhere in another country, it's going to raise a red flag. So, hey, we need the wife to sign a quitclaim deed before we can close this escrow. And it happened to be, okay, quitclaim deed, you go to the you can sign whatever needs to be notarized. But guess what? The embassy for 2 weeks for the tent holiday. So meanwhile, my clients have their, given notice to their apartment. They have movers lined up, move in on the close of escrow date. You can't delay 2 or 3 weeks. So what do? Well, you remind them of the contract and you say, well, if you want to violate the contract, it's going to cost you $1,000 a day, because that's what my clients up at the Fairmont Hotel. They're buying a $1.5 million. You're going to put them up at the Motel 6, right? You start calculating those costs, and it'll be cheaper for that agent to go buy a ticket, fly to Vietnam, get the lady to sign it, and fly back than it would be to delay escrow for 2 weeks. Once we expressed the concerns and our cost for the delay, the gentleman quickly went back to the escrow company and said, "Oh no, I'm not married. It's just my girlfriend. Please close on time." And they did. They closed on time. But the written word is powerful, and if you have the verification in writing, then it's really an open and shut situation. In most cases, reasonable people will try to minimize their costs and damages, and rectifying the situation is usually a lot cheaper and easier than rectifying it after losing an arbitration, especially when you have no leg to stand on. Sometimes people stop watering their lawn. You got a 30-day escrow, you bought the house with a green lawn, you come to close escrow, you got a brown lawn. What's a problem? The seller's violated the contract. You go, "Mr. Seller, I'm going to need a new green lawn. We're going to sue you for $5,000 for a new green lawn. Would you like to pay for the escrow fees?" No. Here's the contract. This is what the contract says. The seller must maintain the property in the same condition. There's your picture from the MLS. You have a green lawn. Now the lawn is no longer green. You need a green lawn. And they do it. They had to do it. All right. Any questions or concerns about going from getting into contract to closing the escrow?
Mark, when you're talking about the lawn, is this after you close escrow or before you close escrow? When you tell about the green lawn? Because that's actually a really good point, that they have to have everything in the same condition, and half the time they don't, which is why it's important to do the inspection for the end.
Yeah, so in the case with the green lawn, we had an estimate from a gardener. It would cost $5,000 to replace that front lawn with new sod because it was dead. So we negotiated that credit and said, "Well, Mr. Seller, now we're going to need this $5,000, and we're going to credit that back to us in escrow, or sign a contractor agreement that you'll have the contractor complete this project and pay for it." Ideally, you want to, if you're going to have them actually do the work, you're going to have to delay the close of escrow, because after the seller gets their money, the likelihood of them doing anything manner goes way down. But if they're waiting for their $1 million, get that lawn green tomorrow.
Got it.
But yeah, the maintenance is, that's what the verification of property condition is. Now, guys, it's not necessarily a contingency. So it's not necessarily an excuse. You can delay escrow or you can close escrow, but just because you close escrow doesn't mean you've given up that right to get those conditions repaired. And they're still obligated to do that, even though sometimes it takes a little longer and it's a little harder to get them to do stuff after they have their money. They're still obligated to do it. And at the end of the day, they most likely will. It's just, you want to spend a week chasing after them, you got to do what you got to do. I had one too where I think the stagers broke one of the beautiful shutters that people had in their master bedroom. They had to cut a check. They couldn't fix it. And they did. It took about 2 weeks after close of escrow, but eventually my clients got their compensation for their broken shutter.
So that inspection should be done like days before close of escrow, a week, a month? What do you recommend? Is there a specific timeline?
Well, you want to verification of property condition. You want to do that after the sellers move out. That way, you know that there's nothing else for them to damage, right? When they're moving appliances, they can scuff walls, they can put holes in places. I mean, we're not talking about major things, minor things, but they add up. And they're things that, you know, your buyers shouldn't have to really worry about. One great way to mitigate, you know, a lot of us that are full service agents and we're not giving any credits back on the buy side or sell side, you're getting your full commission. You know, maybe set aside $1,000 for 5 hours or 5 to 10 hours of handyman, that a handyman will come through and solve all these minor issues for them without them having to worry too hard. It's a great service level and a great opportunity again to ask for referrals, because not every agent does that.
That's a good tip. Thank you.
Yeah, again, guys, most of the, I mean, we're selling used homes, so they're all going to have issues. And the easier we make it on our clients, the more heroic we look. The more heroic we look, the greater likelihood of getting no business from those people. Not only their repeat business, but referrals. The other thing is, you know, make sure you put everyone on a to maintain contact. The NAR statistics stipulate that over 80% of home buyers are very satisfied with their agent when they close escrow. Only 27 use the same agent when they resell their home. That's a shocking statistic. It shows a great shortage service level. Well, maybe, right? You just sell someone a house and forget about it. Don't do that. Don't be that agent. Call your past clients. Believe me, nothing hurts more than past the house you sold and seeing another broker's sign on the lawn. It's like getting punched in the stomach while you're driving. It's like, oh, I sold banker what? Oh man, that should be my listing. And it should be your listing. And it should have been my listing. But what was my problem? I sold the house and I didn't call them for 6 months. Their situations have changed. And there was a door that knocked on their door and got that business. But you know what? Had I maintained my relationship and at least called them a couple of times a year, I wouldn't have lost that. Sherry says that every anniversary she sends a gift. Great idea.
I actually asked, when we closed, I asked my clients all like their birthdays and their wedding anniversary date. It was kind of weird, but I think it's okay. She wasn't
Absolutely.
too shocked about it.
Absolutely. We want to have a complete picture and complete information about our clients in our database. That way we can be most effective. And obviously we get their home anniversary date. That's the close of escrow. It's important to us. It's important to them. But it's a good idea to get their birthdays. Become friends with them on Facebook. It's a great way to get their birthdays that way. And at least call them. Send a card. It's not very expensive, but it'll go a long way. Any other questions or concerns? Paperwork documentation? Pretty easy class today, guys. We're almost to the end of our, actually, we only have one more elementals class, the market center specifics, and we'll have our Ignite grad tomorrow. Congratulate everyone that's gone through this process, learned some tidbits that you can apply in your business that'll help you work, help you generate more business and more clients and build a successful real estate career. It's been an honor teaching you guys and helping out through this process. If you guys have any further questions, concerns, reach out to me. I'm not hard to find.
Mark, I just would like to thank you on behalf of both market centers for your commitment to this process. This morning was a great overview class. I think, you know, this should have been inserted towards the beginning of the program because I think it was so relevant and applies to everyone, even if you need a refresher. So thank you very much for all of your hard work over the past month. And again, I want to thank everybody for attending. This is where we get recharged as a market center by, you know, showing the value that we can add to our agents. And it was just wonderful. Thank you very much.
This, you know, share the process classes that we have. Agents, you know, build their careers, because you guys are going to be out talking to other real estate agents from different companies, and you want to keep tabs and make sure that if they're good people, you think they'd be a good fit for our offices, that you refer them to help and build your downline profit share trees, because go a long way. You know, if you've been with us for a few years, you referred some great agents. If there's a couple of months you don't sell a house, but you get a nice profit share check, it can help with those bills. So keep that in mind.
And I talk to people all month long, and you'd be surprised how many companies do not offer this level of training or any training at all, for that matter. They all say they do, but when it comes down to brass tacks, you know, they might have one seminar or webinar a quarter, and or else everything is, you know, 100% live stream. So we work really hard to make sure that we have a combination of live training as well as all of the wonderful live stream videos and pre-recorded videos that are available on KW Connect. So there should be no reason why people don't have opportunities in their pipeline. It's just a matter of taking, you know, a small nugget from everything that you learned over the past month and that's available for you on Keller Williams training platforms, and get out there, do the activities, and the business will come.
Absolutely. Thank you, Hilda.
My
Thank you all
pleasure.
for joining us. I don't think there's anything else that I can add, except for, you know, if you guys have any questions or concerns, if you guys have been lead generating, any ahas from the 10-4s, any success that anyone would care to share?
Well, I just want to share that I was doing my first transaction with KW without TC because it was very, you know, it's going to be very small commission check, and Mark recommended that I do it myself. And I'm actually glad I'm doing it, because I got to experience firsthand all the paperwork where it's uploaded. And I'm glad, you know, I know the process. Even if next time I'm doing it with TC, it's still good to know what's going on, and, you know, why the TC asking for what they're asking, and just gives you better understanding of the process.
Congratulations on your, well done.
Yeah, closing on
There'll be more bigger
Wednesday.
ones in your future, I have a feeling.
Thank you.
All right. All right, guys. David says in the chat that we need to go out and make some money, and I agree. Let's go out and make some money. Let's try to call 10 people right now from your phone, just 10 random people, and just say what's up. Catch up with them, see how they're doing. Ask them about their lives. They're going to ask your chance to insert your request for what you need from them. And what do we need from them? We need referral, right? Referral-based business, the way to go. Hit them on Facebook and IG. Absolutely. PM them. Hey, you have a quick minute to catch up? Haven't talked to you in a while. And catch up with them. See what their family's about. See if they're getting anything, see if anything interesting is happening in their lives. Maybe they're expecting children. Maybe their children are about to graduate from high school. All great reasons to change their housing situations. Another thing, guys, what has the real estate market done this last year or two? It has shot through the roof, way up. There's a lot of people that maybe bought their home 8-9 years ago. They're approaching that $500,000 threshold of tax-free income that you can benefit from when you sell your primary residence. So if they've already made more than $500,000 in equity on their home, well, all the future appreciation is going to be hedged by taxes. What's a great way to avoid that? Trade up. Trade up. Take all that hard-earned equity, right? Just by owning your home, you can make $1 million. Can you believe that? Some people pay rent and get nothing. Others pay a mortgage, and in 5 or 6 years, they have $1 million in equity. That's pretty powerful. That only happens here, by the way. Silicon Valley
Mark-
real estate's magic.
Mark, can
Go ahead.
you share a little bit about the value proposition of Bold? We have a special local Bold that will start on April 15th. It is going to be for a few select market centers in Silicon Valley or the Bay Area that will participate. So it's going to be limited to probably somewhere between 80 and 100 people. It will be done on Zoom. There'll be special breakout sessions. The cost will be $399 versus $799 when it's done in person. And it's been going to be held every Thursday for 3 hours in the morning. And so it'll be mindset, scripts, and focused on, the activities that get you into production. It's, going to be kind of skills mastery, but can you elaborate what success you've experienced with Bold over the years and why it would be a great follow-up to what we've just gone through?
Bold is a great, it's a coaching and training program, and they kind of have a few tips and tricks to get people off their butts and working hard to achieve the goals that you set. One of the biggest ahas I had for Bold is how they group you into teams, and you get grouped into a team, and then you're held accountable to do the necessary actions to propel your business forward, where you make a commitment to say, okay, yeah, this week I am going to contact 20 people. And then you report to your teammates, and then there's a competition amongst those teams. So if you're falling short or falling behind, well, you're bringing your whole team down. And who wants to bring their whole team down? Nobody. So what happens? You do the work. It's amazing how much more, when we're held accountable to get things done, that we actually take the necessary steps and propel our businesses forward. And Bold is a great way to kickstart that. And actually, people take Bold over and over again, just because it ensures that they take those necessary actions each and every week to propel themselves forward. In our business here, it sometimes becomes a challenge. I mean, you sell 2 or 3 houses in a month, you got $100,000 in your bank account, and it makes it sometimes, you're not quite as motivated to continue doing those things that you did to get there, right? Because you're full and your belly's full and you're kind of relaxing a little bit. Easy to do, but whenever you remember, it starts the roller coaster all over again. So participating in Bold keeps you motivated and accountable. Achieve the things that you set out to achieve for yourself. So it's a great way, great class, and participating in Bold, I think, should result in a transaction or two, which makes the $399 really nothing.
Thank you,
So if
Mark.
you
And
can,
we
I
will
recommend it.
we'll offer a scholarship reimbursement plan. So if you get into contract within 90 days of Bold, we will give you a credit back for half of your Bold session. So we'll pay $199 if you close a deal 90 days after Bold. So if you're willing to invest in yourself, we're willing to support you in that investment so that you can finish out the rest of the year strong.
How long is Bold going to go for, Hilda?
It's going to be, I believe it's 7 weeks, and it'll be every Thursday.
It's going to be 6 weeks,
Oh,
actually.
6 weeks? Okay, I didn't know if it was 6 or 7. And typically the first week kind of is an intro, and you can attend for free to sample the experience. And it's going to be taught by Carl Batiste, who is our former regional director, and he's fantastic. So, it's a great opportunity to take an amazing class from a wonderful MAPS mastery coach. So you're going to get double bang for your buck.
Yeah, Carl's great. And he's done it. I mean, in San Ramon, he sold, I think, over 60, 70 houses in a year. It's incredible.
Yeah,
So
he's lit a
person to
big
learn
team.
from.
Yep.
Great person.
It's going to be great.
Go out there and get it.
Hi, Hilda.
Thank you very much.
Yes, Melissa, you want to give a testimonial for Bold?
Yes,
You're the best. You're the best product out of Bold.
Well, I had a second Bold experience. I just wanted to say Bold's kind of the gift that keeps on giving. The escrow, the contract that I just entered into on the 18th was from a person that I had talked to when I did Bold of January 2019, I think it was. Well, before, yeah, 2020, before the pandemic. So a year later, that client was ready to buy.
And you
That's
initiated the
fantastic.
contact during your bold session?
Yes, actually, because there's so many contacts to make each week, I got to a point towards the end of bold where I was just trying to find anyone to talk to. And I picked up I picked up my Facebook and messaged a friend in Paris thinking, you know, how is someone in Paris going to be able to help me here? But I was desperate to get my contacts. Well, it turns out he did have a referral here and set us up.
Isn't that amazing? And it was a gainfully employed lead. And
Mhm.
but I think the most important skill that you acquired through Bold was making sure that you continued with the follow-up. Because correct me if I'm wrong, but the last two transactions that you've had, you were relentless and you followed up and you stayed in contact and you nurtured those clients for months before the deals actually materialized, correct?
Absolutely. One was 16 months. And I was in contact with her probably every 2 months or so, you know, more of like a hard touch, like a phone call. But in between, we liked and shared and commented on each other's Facebooks and just kind of, and she would, you know, watch the things that I was posting. I was posting other agents' listings. So it was showing that I was really active. And that one was 16 months. The other client that we just got into contract was 1 year and 2 months.
So it just goes to show you, don't give up on a lead, right? Don't give up on that process. Just stay in relationship. And I know this buyer, when they came through and said, okay, we're ready to go again, because I believe they tried earlier or in that process and kind of put it off for a bit and then came back. They were all in. I know that you told me, Hilda, I'm going to write offers for the next 2 weeks until we get into contract.
Yes. Yeah. We were actually expecting that it was going to be, you know, when they finally said that they're ready, we were all kind of with this expectation of, you know, it might take a couple of months to find the right place and get one accepted. But they fell in love with the second place we looked at. So then I took all the learnings that I've gotten here at Ignite and went, you know, did some really deep research on statistics and, you know, talking to pendings and creating a rapport with the listing agent and was able to create a win-win with the offer. And because of that, they accepted our offer without counter and we weren't the highest.
Wow, congratulations. See, that's wonderful.
Thank you. But yes, bold
Congratulations.
great, you guys. It is, you know, 6 to 7 weeks of 100 people a week. But you know, I've gotten two closings because of bold, so highly recommend it.
Yeah, and you know, there's a gentleman named James Endo. He's a top producer in another office. And I've only been to Bold myself, for, I think 2 or 3 times, but he has been in the business for over 30 years and he goes to every single Bold. Sometimes there's 3 Bolds a year and he goes to every single Bold. And so I told him, I said, what is a top producer like you be in this class? He goes, Hilda, he goes, it forces me to do the activities that lead to business. He goes, this is just like going to the gym. If you want those muscles, you got to show up, you know, every day and make it happen. He says, and for me, it's just kicks me in the tail and says, okay, this is what you need to do. He goes, and the timing's great. He goes, I look for bolds all over the country. He says, you know, not just in my own backyard. If it's not being offered here, I go somewhere else. And he says, I just got to keep myself in top training and mastery mode. So that's
another. Sorry, Hilda, that was another really great point that I just wanted to point out about Bold. James Endo was on my very first Bold team. So I spent 7 weeks with top producing agents and we, you know, had open communication through a text thread with everyone on our team, supporting and encouraging and helping each other. And what I learned, not just in Bold, but from these other top producers is invaluable.
That's wonderful. Thank you for your testimonial. I know that you've had great results, as you know, from Bold, and it does work. Otherwise it wouldn't draw in people like James, you know, for over 30 years. So again, it's a reduced cost. Normally it's $7.99 and you have to travel to a location and do it in person. So it's going to be really great that it's going to be condensed and be done online. You can do it from the comfort of your own home or the office, wherever you can just plug into some Wi-Fi, and you'll find a lot of value in it.
Awesome. All right, guys, your path should be clear.
Yep.
So we'll see you tomorrow for market center specifics. You won't see me tomorrow. You might see me at your graduation party though. But I look forward to seeing you guys around the office. If you guys have any questions, concerns for me, I'm really easily available. You can always send an email to broker@kwscv.com.
Do we know what time the graduation party is going to be?
Is there a graduation party, Hilda?
We should certainly plan one, because I think Rob offered to buy burritos and Modelo's.
Hell yeah. Maybe I will go to Yosemite.
Yeah, you better do it before I run out of money.
Yeah, we will definitely plan something here soon. I'll talk to the team at the office and see what we can muster. I do want to share that we are now in the orange tier, which does limit or does reduce some of the restrictions in terms of COVID. Things are opening up slightly. So I hope that everyone is having much success getting their vaccines and will feel comfortable coming back into the office. If you have not yet done so, we'd love to see you. We miss you all very much. The technology in Silicon Valley is phenomenal. It's allowed us to be successful for this entire past year, but we really do miss seeing each and every one of you. So let's do what we can to get together sometime soon in a very safe, method. Still, please continue to wear your masks when you enter, the office, and, keep some social distancing protocols. But we held a very successful hands-on workshop a couple weeks ago that Alicia and Srini were so generous of their time, and Nick Rowe also pitched in. So want to give them an extra special shout out. And that request for that hands-on training came out as a direct result from Ignite. So I just want to, tip my hat off to all of you. We have gone through probably one of the hardest years of our entire lives, and we've come out on top, and we are going to get through this. And I'm super excited at what the future holds for all of you.
Mark,
Yes.
this is Jen Thoms. Stacy has it scheduled at Santa Clara tomorrow at noon, the party.
Oh, okay. There you
Okay,
go.
that must be for your side, because we hadn't heard about that. So we'll do something on our side as well.
Well, come and join us.
Yeah, I don't think we can adjust our calendars that quickly, but otherwise we'd love to.
You just gave a story how you did.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. Have
Thanks,
a good
guys.
one. Thank you, Mark.
All right.